Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which, just like the title suggests, I share with you my quick thoughts on a random episode of Star Trek. Today I'm going to talk a bit about the episode from the second season of the animated Star Trek series called BAM. This is a special type of episode, and it's not the good kind of special. David Gerrold, the author of this episode, who was a writer for the original series, he has done a few rewrites for other people's scripts, and he wrote also his famous episode, The Trouble with Tribbles. He also pitched this episode for season 2. Gene Roddenberry didn't like it very much and has decided to postpone it until season 3. However, because the new producer also said no, because Roddenberry practically left the show during season 3, this was again postponed. When Dorothy Fontana searched for scripts for the first season of the animated series, she asked also David Gerrold. He has offered BAM, and DC Fontana said no. Do you see the pattern? So instead of BAM, they produced a different Gerrold script, more tribbles, more troubles. However, when he was asked again to deliver a script for season 2 of the animated series, he has offered BAM again, because they seriously needed some scripts. Roddenberry finally said yes, but at the same time he kept asking David to do more and more changes. Why am I giving this such a long intro? Well, what I'm trying to say is that the original story probably wasn't very good. I don't know the original story, but after implementing Roddenberry's changes, I have to say this episode is pretty bad. Did Gene save the episode from being absolutely horrible to be at least tolerable? Or did he actually destroy it with his changes? We will probably never know. Anyway, the story, which was actually shot, starts with Kirk explaining that they have been given on board an observer from a newly discovered planet called Pandro. His name is Ari Ben Bam. They are going on a landing party to explore a different previously unknown planet, and Bam wants to go with them. Unfortunately, he for some reason messes with the transporter, and Kirk and Spock materialize in mid-air. After they fall to the river, Bam jumps down to help them. This scene tells us two important things about him. First, he's a complete asshole, and second, he is a colony creature and his different parts can detach themselves. And I don't know why, but he reminds me of a certain gentleman called Bender Bending Rodriguez. Bam switches Kirk's and Spock's phaser and communicator for dummies. Why? I never could understand this. They try to explain it later, but to me that explanation makes no sense at all. When did he even create the fakes? Why did Kirk and Spock not feel hands touching their private parts in the water? They continue until they notice a group of lizard people. Bam then suddenly runs towards them, and we can again see that he can split into several body parts. Kirk and Spock can't get through the planned things and have to find a different way, but when they find if they can only watch how the lizards capture him. They find their village and try to rescue him, only to get captured themselves. But Bam, instead of thanking them, starts bitching, "I'm sorry, but I hate this character," and he's supposed to be the hero of the story. He says that he's actually there to observe and that he was the one who changed their equipment. After returning the stuff to them, they manage to escape, and then plot 3 starts. They get blocked by some flickering lights with the voice of Lieutenant Uhura. This is definitely the point where the Roddenberry plot kicks in. The lights are a god-type creature, and the lizards are his or her children. Well, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? In the case that you don't know, Gene shoehorned the same thing into an episode of the first season of The Next Generation, called, I think, Justice. Yes, that's exactly the same subplot, and just like in that episode, it feels completely out of place, even in this one. The god takes away their weapons and the lizards capture them again, which means the switching of the real things for fakes, and the previous capture were what? That's correct. Most of the previous story was absolutely pointless. Bem runs away, leaving Kirk and Spock in their cages. Cages which look very fragile. Why don't Kirk and Spock simply break them and run away? The wooden cages look very fragile. No, instead of it, Kirk calls the creature and has his speech. The god creature allows them to call the Enterprise to save them, and after catching Bam, they should leave and never come back. So they shoot some lizards, catch Bam, and have a little chat with God. Ben promises he will disassemble himself forever. Finally, some good news for this character. Nope, God doesn't allow it. Back on the Enterprise, Kirk says the planet will be guaranteed, and the Enterprise flies away towards the next episode. Where should I begin? I hate Bam's character. He simply is a jerk to people who want to help him. He endangers their lives without any good reason. His plan also makes no sense if you really start to think about it. He ignores all previous away missions, but for some reason he wants to go to the lizard planet. He lets himself captured so that he can observe them, but then complains when Kirk and Spock try to save him. Then he complains that they can't save him. Then he runs away and then wants to commit suicide after getting captured. What was his plan? What was his motivation? Spock is absolutely useless in this episode. Kirk doesn't really feel like Kirk. The God subplot is absolutely useless. It just doesn't belong into this story. For some reason, Roddenberry loved to create godlike creatures and shoehorn them into stories in which they didn't belong. If I can return to The Next Generation for a moment, it's in the episode Justice, where the god is a weird space station looking thing, and in Encounter at Farpoint it's of course Q. Maybe if they did try to do it a bit more natural, maybe it could work. Also, what's with the design of Bam? Bam means bug-eyed monster, so clearly he was planned to look differently. The story itself doesn't make any sense. What was the point of it? Why does it exist? What's the story? They go down to a planet and then leave the planet, never to come back again. We learn nothing about Bam, except the fact that he's a colony creature. We learn nothing about the lizard people. Are they good and peaceful, or are they some violent savages? We learn nothing about the god creature. It doesn't seem to be very intelligent. Is that what Gene was trying to tell us about, quote-unquote, our god? Nobody learns anything, nobody is different in the end, nothing that happens in the story has an impact. Does it sound interesting to anybody? Overall, as you might tell, I don't like this episode. The story is all over the place, the tone is not existing, it tries to be a comedy, then it tries to be serious, then it tries to show us some danger, then it tries to be religious with talking about God, and none of it actually works. Bam is unlikable, the other characters except Kirk are useless, The dialogue is boring, the action is boring. At least we get some interesting looking aliens. I must admit that the lizards look pretty interesting. That said, I can't give this episode more than 3 out of 10. I'm sorry, David, you seem like a nice guy and a pretty good writer, but this one is a no-no to me. As I said in the beginning, I would really like to know if Roddenberry saved the original story or destroyed it completely. Maybe we could get one day a comic book adaptation of the original story just like we got with The City on the Edge of Forever. Who knows, but it could be interesting. But as always, those were just my opinions. I would like to read about your opinions down in the comment section. Let me know if you like this episode or not. In the case you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button and feel free to watch the previous episodes. I covered the first seasons of the original series and the animated series. You should see some playlists on screen right now, or feel free to check any other video on my channel. And if you enjoyed this, come back next week when I'll talk about the episode The Practical Joker, which wasn't very good, but at least it was entertaining. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next time. Bye.